Good evening, friends. Welcome to this edition of the Thursday night Mystery Wine Blind Tasting. I'm happy to have you with us for this, a chilly winter's eve, and we have what seems to be a crisp white wine to accompany it. Minerality jumping out of the nose. Who's with us on this cold night? There's a lot going on in that wine, and hopefully a lot going on with all of you. Chime in and let us know who's here, what's going on in your world, and what you think of this wine first right off the bat. Has anything jumped out for you? And we'll talk a little bit about how to approach kind of white wine and what we're going to think about with respect to a few different categories of wines, sort of a lighter, more medium, more robust wine, and kind of categorize wines that are in the white category of the world of wine. We've been doing a lot of reds lately, so it's nice to kind of revisit a fresh white. I had a lovely Mount Eden Chardonnay the other night, and just reminded how much enjoyment can come from a white wine. I think most of us focus on reds generally. I think the world of wine does, and certainly we see that at the restaurant here as guests come in and ask for a wine. More often than not, they're asking for a red, and our wine list skews in that direction. But white wines, I think, just have a much greater appeal for a wider spectrum of offerings. They go with more foods than red wines do typically, and while you can start an evening with them, they often can carry through just in an enjoyable fashion while you're eating whatever you're eating, if you're exempting the idea of a perfect pairing. You get vegetable courses and the variety of things we eat on a regular basis, sort of from a takeout perspective and a nightly basis. White wines work really well generally for those types of foods too, oftentimes better than the red does. So happy to have a really neat white wine to enjoy with you this evening. Jan and Leslie, hello. And the Sanders, good evening to you guys. Welcome. What do you think of this wine as you guys put your nose in it? What are you smelling? What are you seeing? And I know I'm getting ahead of myself when I ask what you're smelling, but right off the bat, I started smelling things. It just sort of came out of the glass. And I literally cracked the Stelvin closure, the screw cap, right before I clicked go live, and so it's been open for all of a minute. Butternut squash soup with a turkey sandwich. I mean, that's pretty cool. I think that's going to work here. You know, the unique thing about this, and not knowing enough about this wine yet, but it's already mineral driven and kind of fresh and bright on the nose. It is in a category that might have a little bit of texture. I can't tell for sure yet, and I haven't looked at it firmly, but that kind of thing with a turkey sandwich, that kind of thing with butternut squash soup, that kind of thing with a buttery pasta, that kind of thing with a lightly roasted or grilled piece of fish, that kind of thing with charcuterie, that kind of thing with all kinds of food. Let's talk about Thai food or Vietnamese food or anything like that, where you're just looking for a nice glass of wine to enjoy with the day, the end of your day, and with whatever you're eating. These types of whites are perfect for that. So. Jan, thank you. Light gold seems bold in color. Yeah, it's got a little light gold tint to it. It does for sure. It's not like watery light. It's not lemony. It has a little bit of a golden quality to it. It's vibrant, kind of 14 karat. It has a lot of aromatic elements coming out for me. Leon and Kim, hello, guys. So great that you are with us this evening. Did you get your wine, I hope, replacement this week? I apologize for not following up that myself, but I did mention that to the team. Jan, cheeses, perfect choice, right? So great with cheeses, tremendous. And that's just not even knowing enough about this, but light to medium-bodied white wines that have a crispness quality to them that we think about kind of more as patio wines for the summertime, I think also serve well in some context in the wintertime. And just having a more moderate textured wine with some of those bright mineral tones serve to have just that, having a bottle of that in the fridge that you can kind of just have over the course of a night or two as your first wine glass of the evening, and then even just when you carry through period throughout the evening is extremely beneficial. And so we're oftentimes talking about here at the restaurant what wines pair with courses. Part of my career and what I've learned about wines is more oftentimes than not, I'm trying to pair the wine with a person and the person in a circumstance. And so your circumstance at home drinking a wine is different than drinking a wine in the restaurant for a particular course or a particular plate that we're putting together. And so all of that is filed underneath pairing, which is the neat part about food and wine and people. Ariel, Matt, hi there. And Autumn, excuse me, in DC. How you doing? Leslie, sure. Let's arrange a time. We'll just have some wine at home with me. Or I'll join you at home with some wine. But we get to do this, and so in a way, we're at home with each other, enjoying some wine together. Trish, Andy, and Kathy are here. You're not late. We're just getting started. Dean, Bobbin, good evening to you. All right, so let's look at this wine and start to think about what it is. It's a lighter kind of gold, deeper color. Not super deep, but it's deeper. It's not super light. So right off the bat, we're not thinking something like Sauvignon Blanc, right? If you get a little greenish cast and it's a little bit more watery in appearance, you might think Sauvignon Blanc. With a little gold cast, there's a lot of varietals that are on the table, and that golden hue could reflect a little bit of age. It could reflect a particular varietal that has a little bit more hang time, and so the skins themselves might have kind of bronzed a bit, so you're having a little bit more sunshine. Not saying that you have skin contact here, but that you have a bit more richness that way. So ripeness. We could have a little bit of oak aging maybe, and oxidation. So oxidation, like think about an apple on the top of a countertop left. If you cut it into pieces and you left it on the countertop, it turns brown. It oxidizes, it turns nutty. And so that coloration, that discoloration, or that transformation of color, I don't want to make it a negative thing because sometimes it's really a beautiful thing, can add a little color. Oh, Leslie, I apologize. I didn't understand what you're saying. You get the wine by venturing to Field and Main in advance of the Thursday night and picking up a bottle here, and then you can take it home and enjoy. Kathy, hi. How are you, my lady? You've missed you for the last couple of weeks. Hope you're doing well. This is, we're going to do one more week, Johnny, before we stop for the year and then pick it up again. We have next week, the 16th, available. So thank you guys for answering where I missed her question. I apologize. What else do you smell then on this particular wine? Let's talk about the few things we're looking for. Fruit, earth, wood. Fruit. What kind of fruit? Is it citrus fruit? Is it stone fruit, i.e. something that has a pit? Is it a tree fruit like a pear or an apple? Is it kind of a tropical fruit? Do you smell like pineapple or guava or I know citrus kind of is a tropical element too, but banana is oftentimes something you find in white wines, in Chardonnay a lot of times. So, and then the question about the fruit is what kind of condition of the fruit is it? And so is the fruit just fresh, picked right off of the tree or vine or bush? Is it something that's been dried in the sun? Is it something that has been cooked with sugar? Is it something that's sort of sweetened but also medicinal? What character is the fruit? And that can tell you a little bit about place. All right, we got some peach. So we got some stone fruit. Robert and Jan picking up on some peach first pour, but then it faded for Robert. And then a little green apple. Dean, I pick up some of that apple for sure. There was a mineral element, a crushed rock, kind of wet stone element for me first. That jumped right out of the glass before I even swirled it, just as I poured it. Almost the aroma that was released on the wines touching the glass. Pear and apple from Ariel, thank you. Stone fruit, yep. So we're getting some stone fruit. Johnny's not picking up any wood profile. So fruit, earth, wood. Earth kind of touches on a little bit of that minerality I might have picked up on. And then the wood element would be like a spice profile, perhaps, that we would pick up on. Sometimes you get a little dill if you smell, if there's a type of wood, American oak, for example. Sometimes you get a buttery profile. That's usually malolactic fermentation. That can also be associated sometimes with wood that's stored in it. So yeah, Mark Nima and Mark finally get to do this live. Great. You're doing it with us this time in person. That's so great. Well, participate along the way, and then you can go back and watch the archives and read your own comments, which is fantastic, and then the others, of course. But that's a way a lot of folks do this. They pick up a bottle too, and so for sure, if you don't have the bottle this week, you can come in and pick up a bottle and rewatch the video and play along again if you'd like. Robert, you picking up a little butterscotch? So butterscotch can be that malolactic fermentation. It can be maybe an element of that. I'm not hitting that yet, but power of suggestion will get me there. All right, let's taste this and see. Mostly stone fruit, a little bit of citrus, some minerality. Ooh. Wow. That one left me speechless. I don't. That's fantastic. I don't know where to place that wine exactly, because there is that immediate like richness on the palate, that golden profile on the color carries through to a richness that's medium plus, right? It's dry. And then there's like the fantastic note by Dean, like a fresh oregano on the finish, not a dominant taste. There's something herbal and but not prominently so. You're right. It's faint. It's a hint. And then now it's like that yellow apple that's been cut, and the juices are running to the pores where the slice happened, and a bit of fizz. Johnny, you're picking up a little bit of kind of SO2 perhaps. So it's young, I bet. That's often an indication of some youth. When you bottle a wine, a lot of times a little extra sulfur is added to preserve the wine so that it can make its trip to wherever its final destination will be, i.e. your table and your glass. And sometimes that SO2 stays in suspension, kind of in a bubbled form, and then blows off. When you get a wine that's young like that, especially on the white side of things, it's really young and kind of tastes a little bit spritzy, and also tries to taste a little bit muted. Oftentimes it's worth kind of putting the cap back on, or if it's a cork and you've lost it, you just kind of close it up, make sure you really close it up with your thumb, and give it a good shake, and then gently turn it back up and let a little air out, and it'll kind of go psst, and it'll blow off a little bit of that SO2, and you get a kind of an enlivening of the wine. You release some of that gas that's trapped in suspension and makes the wine come alive a bit. All right, bold and dry from Jan. I agree, it's bold. But like, there's a candied quality now in the palate, no? Like sweetheart? Anybody else? There's a boldness, a richness, kind of a golden color. I wanted to go Chardonnay, but then that minerality and the color just didn't seem to line up. It'd be like a very warm coastal California presentation of Chardonnay, and then thinking about Chenin Blanc with the textural element and the apple quality. But there's this mineral element that does the fizz feel a little prickly, spritzy? Matt Carroll joining us. Thank you, sir. He has a few thoughts. It's not super fizzy, prickly, spritzy for me. It's actually got more of a smoothness for me at this point. I think I've been swirling a little bit and I've dissipated some of that prickly, spritzy. But what are you thinking, Matt? What do you want to share with us on that? A little acidic, slow legs. Mark, Old World, Northern Germany. I like where you're headed there, because I was just about to say, although I don't get to get any credit for that because now you've already said it. I was just about to say there's something reminiscent of like that German Riesling minerality, but this isn't German Riesling. Like it's, German Riesling with apples. Like, remember when we tried that, was at Scheurebe? And it kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Kerner we've tried, but not the same spice profile. So like Italian white varietal, but more like German. It seems to have that flinty minerality element. So depending on oak profile, it could be Smaragd Grüner Veltliner. So Austria kind of having that minerality and that ripeness. That's a good call. I'm not getting any kind of Yeah, it's a great question, Kathy. Is it too ripe for Germany? It might be. I mean, but that ripeness that Matt's calling for in the Smaragd level, that's what, 12% or 12.5% or more in terms of ripeness scale for the Wachau region of Austria for a Gruner Veltliner. I'm not picking up a lot of the, like that radish element or some white pepper kind of quality that you pick up sometimes in Gruner Veltliner. But maybe we're talking about Riesling from the Wachau Smaragd. Nothing tropical, like nothing diesel, petrol-y for me. Anybody else picking that up from a Riesling standpoint? There's this sweet tart quality on the palate. Smarties. It tastes like a Smartie. My girls love it. Ooh, wait a minute. What else do you guys smell? Jen, you liking Chenin Blanc? I mean, it's hard to argue against Chenin. This has the acidity, it has texture, it has apple, it has color. Apologies. I had swirled the bubbles away from in my first pour. They're all back here. They're still in the glass. They're still in the bottle, I should say. A lot of little spritzy bubbles. Kimberly, you're picking up a little bit of Washington State, like a Washington State Chenin. Very cool there. Or are you thinking about Riesling, or what grape varietal are you thinking about from Washington? Because there's ripeness there, and so, yeah, that'd be an interesting call. Matt and everyone else, Matt's asking, where are we finding the acid and the oak? Not a lot of signature of oak. Not a lot of spice, per se, coming through in the wine, either on the nose or the palate. And the acidity, it's persistent on the finish, the back half for sure. It's a prominent part of the experience, and it is the most lengthy part of the experience lingering on the finish. It isn't, it's more acidity than it is flavor that lingers. There's an immediate effect of acidity in the mouth too, right up front, that is slightly masked by that spritz that happens and by the textural component. But boy, it's there. And this is it's a medium plus to, one could argue, nearly like high minus acid. This isn't enamel stripping, but it is puckering. Riesling, but Chenin Blanc is what Kimberly's saying from Washington. Well, I like that. Matt's saying the sweet tarts put him sometimes in Oregon Pinot Gris camp. Some of that grip, but nothing super loud about it. Yeah, it's not loud, and that's a neat idea. Yep, Johnny, you're right about that. Playing the bottle game, this doesn't suggest Riesling. Chacolina is a really cool call, especially because of the spritz, Kathy. This is a bigger bottle. It's heavy. Like, this isn't, it's got some heft to it. Chacolina. That minerality would be there. I think would be a little bit lighter and not quite as golden, but it would explain some of that minerality, that little spritz quality to it. Chacolina, grape from the Basque Country. That one day, when we have an outdoor sort of bar or something where I can spill wine while I'm pouring it, I'm going to perfect how the bartenders in the Basque Country and like San Sebastian pour Chacoli, and they pour it from a high on high. I can't keep it on the camera here for you, but they're like, the bottle's up here, the glass is down here, and they're just this perfect stream that runs into the glass, and it froths because the bubbles are there. And you just have one after another, and it's delightfully refreshing. And to my point earlier, you're just eating pinchos, you're eating tapas the whole time in San Sebastian while you're drinking that. And it goes with everything. It goes with salt cod stuffed piquillo peppers. It goes with little bacon wrapped dates. It goes with ham. It's just perfect. So Pinot Gris, is that what you're saying, Dean? Seems to have a lot of it. PG. And that could be Oregon Pinot Gris. So an Oregon Pinot Gris here, fascinating. A little bit more skin contacted color. I mean, it's not reddish in hue, but it's golden. It's deeper. It's too rich and not quite lemony enough to be lemon kind of Pinot Blanc. Pinot Gris is a nice call from the New World. So we're sort of searching for an old world sensibility about it with acidity, a minerality, a ripeness, texture. Wow. So going a cool-ish place like Oregon where you can get some warmth is a good call. Going more kind of northern Germany, as someone had said, I don't, are we talking about an interesting kind of German varietal? I don't know. Is it an Italian white wine from northern Italy kind of that represents some of the notes that are here? It seems to me a little less funky than some of those wines might be, and altogether a little bit more clean. Could this be Riesling or Gruner Veltliner from Austria, from the Wachau region, a Smirnoff kind of level, something that's more ripeness and thus the body weight texture? Could this be Chocolate, Basque Country White, Vino Verde? Doesn't seem quite that fresh. There's no green tint, but there's no there is that appley element that we had. That was green apple first, but now it's more like yellow apple. Could this be Albarino? Got the pear early on. A lot of times pear is an Albarino tell for me. Mark, Mosel, yeah, could this be the Mosel from Germany? It's not Riesling that I can tell. I mean, a dry Riesling will give you more texture, more alcohol. It's not immediately identifiable, though. There's that sweet tart element that you can get, I guess, on some Riesling. So I don't think that's a bad call. There's something about this that sings about that place, but kind of also befuddles the tried and true profile that you pick up a little bit on a Riesling from the Mosel, right? So another white from the Mosel, possibly. But what is the question? An outlier like Verdicchio? Yeah, there's an opportunity for that. I'm kind of trying hard. Mark, I think you're onto something there. I don't know how to, I'm not disagreeing with you in any way, shape, or form by what I'm about to say, but I don't know how to agree with the Mosel with what's in the glass, except there are elements in the glass that kind of taste like slaty kind of minerality and have this acidity and have then sort of, it's like somebody planted Chenin Blanc in the Mosel. And Verdicchio could give you some of that. I don't know about this kind of persistent acidity. There's acidity in Verdicchio, but this has got that fine razor's edge kind of Japanese knife precision razor kind of acidity to it. And do you get that stuff from the Wachau? Johnny's asking. Not in the same way. You get acidity, but you get weightier quality. To use the knife analogy, if the Mosel kind of presents in that acidity like you might have from Japanese knife, but then you're kind of more of a German knife in the Wachau. You just have something broader and more structured, more powerful. Alsatian is a great ask, Ariel, and going back maybe to Pinot Gris, excuse me, from Alsace. It doesn't have kind of the heaviness of those wines. Those wines can have this density to them, whereas this just seems while it has roundness, while it has a richer character to it, it has this persistent spine of acidity that, I don't know. Yeah, Kathy, I came into Albarino too, and a lot of what I'm talking about could make sense from Albarino too. So a more aged or kind of riper pick of Albarino. Very good description, Kimberly, thank you. As it's warm, there's a metallic element in the top back part of the mouth. There's these secondary, these tertiary elements to this wine that the fruit is stayed the same, kind of. It changed a little bit from green apple to sort of yellow apple for me. The citrus is there. There was that peachy kind of aroma, but not like artificial peachy, just like white peach. Just the skin, kind of, just the flesh, just the faint aroma of it as opposed to the taste or flavor of it. And that sort of stayed the same. And then it's been more mineral, it's been acidity. Yeah, I mean, not knowing how to get to the Mosel, because I'm uncomfortable saying Riesling, I think I'm probably gonna go more toward where Kathy and Dean are suggesting now with the Albarino element, because you got the pear and the apple element, you got the citrus, you have the bright acidity, and you got texture. We have a wine here called Grand Bazin Etichetta Verde, and then they make an Etichetta Brune that is sort of the brown label that is a little bit more aged and concentrated. It's not this bottle, so it's not this, but it's like that, and that's Albarino from Rias Baixas. Name of the Chardonnay aged in concrete egg. Yeah, there's a chance there. This acidity is a little bit more persistent, but you can get acidity from Chardonnay, and you can get that yellow apple. So there's everything about the component parts of this wine could be Chardonnay, and I just don't know where. Like, it's almost like Chenin Blanc or Chardonnay like this was planted in the Mosel, and so I'm going to go away from the Mosel, but all right. What do you guys think? Where do you want to go? Where's your final thoughts? Austria, Germany, Italy perhaps, Chenin Blanc from France potentially, but from Washington State, Riesling from there too potentially, Pinot Gris from Oregon, Pinot Gris or other varietal from Alsace, and Albarino from Rias Baixas. So more often than not, by this point, after 50-something of these or 60-something of these, we get collectively close to a region, and we're pretty good. We're spread wide over the map on this one. So Dean and Kathy are on Albarino, so I'm going to say Albarino Rias Baixas. And you could get Albarino in a bottle shaped like this. A sweet tart element. Yeah, I think the closest I can get would be, I think, Albarino, sort of 2019. Kristen saying Spain. All right, Johnny. With a variety she doesn't know. 2019, maybe even 2020. That's fair. Spain, Rias Baixas, Albarino for Kathy. Whatever it is, it's a really tasty wine. And it is exactly the wine that I was kind of trying to talk about in the beginning, being one that this is bright and vibrant, so you could have it as just a kind of an aperitif. Easy. Certainly sit down with it. Well, how about we back up a second? Before you sit down with it, you have an aperitif, you're thinking about cooking, what you're going to have for dinner, thinking about what you're going to order. And then you have a glass while you're making it or preparing it. And then you might have another glass at the table. And this is that type of wine that can take you there the whole way. All right, yeah, I'm going to go 2019 Spain, Rias Baixas, Albarino. But in a way, I'm hoping it's not that, because got to explain that razor's edge kind of acidity. So we'll see. Where else? Anybody else want to offer anything different before I reveal? One final sip. Still got that sweet tart element. Smarties. Oh man, how cool is that? Look at that. So, Elbling, and the Mosel more importantly. So Trocken meaning dry, so this is dry, 2020, so brand new. Elbling, 2,000 years ago, Romans planted the enigmatic Elbling grape on the upper Mosel. Today, Elbling is grown in the same Muschelkalk soils and seashell-strewn floor of the ancient seabed. So there's your minerality. Only a handful of dedicated growers continue to create these traditionally steely, mineral-redolent, dry Elblings. They are thrillingly crisp, feather-light wines that drink anywhere at any time. That is super cool. So this is, per the note on the front too, is the oldest German grape that is continuously grown in the Mosel. So you get major credit for saying Mosel. Wow. And I've never heard of it, how many times you get a chance to try this grape? It's brand new. The other cool thing about this, 11% alcohol. And the final cool thing about this is, I was looking at the alcohol content, so it's lighter in alcohol, this is 1 liter. This is a whole liter bottle. This is 1/3 more than we normally get to enjoy. So you can amend my statement of your aperitif wine, then your cooking wine, then your table wine, and you get an extra glass out of that probably, because you're going to get 6 glasses or so out of this bottle, which is very cool. That's a happy wine. Wow. Very cool. Guys, that was a fun one. I don't think anybody should get down on themselves for not calling Elbling, but I think we should get a lot of credit for picking up a little bit of that minerality element and kind of talking about Mosel, that German element here that just doesn't equate to Riesling, but because it's not. It's Elbling. So, fantastic. I'm going to have some of this lying around for sure. Sip on this for the rest of the evening. Hope you have had an enjoyable time tasting this as much as I did, certainly. Johnny, yeah, I understand wanting to go back to Germany and get more into this and find the spots where they grow this and taste wine on the site where this is grown. But until then, we'll make do with drinking it together, which we'll do again next week on Thursday, as I said, the last week before we break for the holidays. And if I don't see you next Thursday or before the holidays, I wish you well. If I do, that'll be my great fortune. And until then, cheers, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us this week.